Okay. Well, I would like to welcome all of you to this family history class about basic research. Now, as we go along, if you have a question, if you would put it in the chat, and then we can, if possible, address it here. We will have at the end, we will have an email address. You can email additional questions to. There are specific research questions that we can have someone help you address. My name is Deborah Glenn. I love family history. My mother was a convert to the church. My father came from pioneer ancestry, so I've been privileged to have a little experience on both sides, as it were. However, my very first piece of research that I did, I wrote a letter to the Trober Wiltshire Parish Church asking if they had a christening record for James Curtis Taunton. And I received back on an aerogram, if you remember what an aerogram was, a piece of paper that folded in three, the information about his christening from England. And that was my very first piece of successful research. And that was pretty exciting. And so I share with you today basic things that you can do. Try to work on your own research. And there's always, we could go on this for hours and hours, but we're going to just hit the basics today, and we may address additional topics at another time. And again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll try and address those as we go. I'd like to share with you. So we're discovering my family tree. So some basic research principles are, first of all, you need to become familiar with just the research process, which means what to look into and what to think about and what's important. We're not going to go over all of that, but if you can become familiar with the research process. Secondly, I suggest that you gain a general historical background of the locality in which you're researching. It makes a difference to know if you're researching in Luxembourg, for instance, are you researching during the time they're independent or when Napoleon was there, or even, in the United States, there's lots of different historical backgrounds that can help you with your research. Third, you need to learn about available sources and references. And we're going to discuss a way that will help you with that. But there are, seminars, books, but Family Search has a really good tool we'll discuss later. Fourth, survey what has already been done. Sometimes when you look over research that's already been done, it gives you clues and keys as to where to go next. Fifth, work from the known to the unknown. Once I was helping a young man who came in and he said, I want to research my family in Romania. And I said, okay, where do they live in Romania? I have no idea. I said, okay. Did they live in the United States? Yes, they came over to the United States. They came to Milwaukee, turned just after 1900. I said, okay, let's find them in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We found them in a state census, and long story short, from the information we got there led us to other sources, and we were able to find on this side of the ocean exactly where in Romania they came from. So we worked from the known to the unknown. Sixth, be willing to adjust your approach as locality and time varies. Research differs from time to time and place to place. Just because they have vital records in your time frame in 1870 doesn't mean they had them in 1840. And just because they have them in the United States doesn't mean they have them in other countries, or vice versa. When we were serving our first mission in Mexico City, I was helping a woman there. And I said to her, I wished Missouri had vital records in 1859 like Mexico. Missouri did not have as good birth, marriage, and death records in that time frame as Mexico. And she couldn't believe that Mexico was better than the United States in any way. 7, start with your home and your family. You never know what you're going to find and what might be handed to you. Pictures, look on the backs of pictures, talk to family members, We went to visit one of my mother's great uncles once, and he handed her a picture telling her he thought she might be interested in it. And on the back of the picture was written the maiden name of a woman. She'd been searching for this maiden name for a number of years. 8, determine the location and the time period, because the where and the time period makes a difference as to the sources you're going to be able to research and what's available. This is something I like to think about. If you don't know where they are, you don't know where to look. Now, you might have a general idea, but if you don't know if they're in the middle of the ocean, in England, Scotland, or anywhere else, it makes it much more difficult to look. You need to at least have a guess of some sort. It helps a lot if you do. And also be aware that in searching index records online using the search engines, sometimes less is more. And I'll show you what I mean about that when we go along. In other words, you might want to put in all the information you know about your ancestor. But if you put in sometime and you don't come up with much, but sometimes if you put in a minimal amount, you'll come up with more possibilities because their name is spelled differently, or they went by a different name, but you can still tell that they're your ancestor. So those are 2 things I'd like you to consider. So we're going to talk now about using family search tools for research. This is the homepage for family search. You notice at the top here, we have family search, family tree, search, memories, indexing, activities, and temple. We're going to investigate the search tab. When you click on the search tab, it brings up these possibilities: records, images, family tree, genealogies, catalog, books, and the research wiki. So for the first part of this presentation, we're going to address each of these a little bit because they're all worth searching. We're going to start with records. When you click on the records tab, it takes you to historical records. And at this point in time, I'm going to leave this particular screen and go on to family search because I felt like it would be a little bit better. So I'm going to stop the share, then I'm going to share, and we're going to go to family search. Okay, so this is family search. We're going to go to search, records. And I'm going to put in a deceased ancestor's name. And it doesn't matter if you have the whole name. And sometimes, like I said, less is more. It's often, if you want to narrow the locality and you know an approximate birthplace, that's good, or a place where they lived, that can help narrow things. If you are just searching for anything you can find, leave out that and you will get many more possibilities, which may not apply to you, but there are more possibilities. Now you notice when I click on Cynthia Ann Finks in Missouri, it brings up some possibilities, some records. Here's a Cynthia Finks, born in 1869, Salt River Township, Audrain County, Missouri. Her father, Franklin Finks, and mother, Elizabeth Finks. This actually is my great-grandmother, and her father's name was actually Joel Franklin Finks. And so, cha-ching, and here's her marriage record to my great-grandfather in Audrain County, Missouri. And here she's the mother of a groom when my grandfather got married. Now, so there are other Cynthia Finkses, but I know enough to know they're not mine. But if you don't, you can go in and search them. Now, notice that up at the top here, this particular collection of records comes under the records tab. We have on here a record from the census, Missouri County marriages, Montana County marriages, public records. So this is a compilation of many records which the search engine found her name. If you're looking for a specific collection, click on the collection tab and you will find them grouped in there are different groupings. The first is birth, marriage, and death. Next is census and lists, followed migration and naturalization, military records, other records, and probate and court records. And so if you're interested in a particular record, like a particular census, you can click on it, go to that. Now notice that in 1900, there are 60 possible matches. In 1870, there are 20, and you can click on that. I'll click on 1870. And up come Finks's, who show up in 1870, who may or may not be mine. The first one, of course, is a Cynthia Finks with her father Franklin and her mother Elizabeth, and I know that she is mine. And so sometimes you just want to restrict your search to a particular collection or collections. Other times you want to go to the records. And if you want to go back to search all collections, you could click on this tab and we'll go back again and search all the collections. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about the less is more principle. I'm going to take out her name here. I'm going to leave in Finks, birthplace, Missouri, but I'm going to put in her father. Joel Franklin Finks, or you can just put Finks. And I will put her mother is just Elizabeth. Let's see what we come up with. Now you notice the first entry here is Ametta B. Finks, born in June 1874. Her father is Joel F. Finks, her mother Elizabeth Finks. She lives in Audrain County, Missouri. This is a sister to my great-grandmother. And by finding this, I now have a month and year of birth, which I did not have before. So I can see there are many people, many entries here for that family. But I have seen it happen more than once where people put in a last name, sometimes a father's first name and last name, and maybe a mother's first name, and they come up with family and children that they had not known existed. To go to this record, and to notice when I go to the record, it gives me options. It's attached to her, but there is a box here called Tools. If I click on Tools, I can do something called Add to Source Box. Now, when you do research, they suggest that you keep a research log. Keep track of what you're doing, write it down, and that's a good thing to do. But another thing I like to do is add a potential record to my source box, because then I can go back and review it and attach it later without having to find it again. Search engines are funny things. Sometimes it seems like they find something the first time you look, but not the second. Don't ask me what they ate for dinner. I don't know. But so when I find something that I really want to go back and review, I'll click on Add to Source Box. Notice it says what it is. And if I want to add a note, I can put Cynthia's sister or anything else and say save. Okay. Now you might say, that's all well and good, but where is the source box? If you go to your Family Search account and click on your picture or your name, notice one of the options is source box. I'll click on source box. The first thing listed there is Meta B. Finks and household of Joel F. Finks. So I can go directly back to that source. I feel like it's a wonderful tool that you can use to keep track of important information that you have happened upon and you want to review and attach at a later time. Now notice if this page comes up and I click on save, the same option comes up, save to source box. These over here, you can view the details. Whenever there's a camera, you can look at the actual image. And when you are doing research, I highly suggest that as often as possible, you look at the actual image, because the indexers do not take all the information off of the actual image. I think for me, one of the biggest finds that I saw when I was helping Hermana Sister Zarate in Mexico, in the Mexican birth records, they sometimes would have not only the name of the child, the parents, but also the names of both sets of grandparents. And those were not in the indexed record. So that's 3 generations in one record. Okay, let's move on. We'll go back to search. Now I'm going to go to images. This is a new tab that I hadn't used much, but it's got some really good things in it. It says you're going to search the groups of images in the world's largest collection of historical documents with over, I believe that's 4 billion and counting. And notice as they add images, the counter keeps going. And it's by place. And many of these images are not in the Family History Library catalog, and they have not been indexed. So for instance, I know from having searched the Family History Library catalog that Carroll County, Maryland has a lot of, does not have a lot in some of their areas. So I down here, notice the little bubble. That means this is the standardized place to write Carroll County, Maryland. And I will click on that and I will search the image groups. On the side here, it has other places in Carroll County, Maryland, for which there are additional images, which you might search if you want to. I'm particularly interested in Manchester and a couple of other these places because they're Silver Run, they're where my ancestors lived, Union Mills. But at this point in time, I'm going to just show you. We can go in here and you can click on the image. And it takes you to the actual images that have been scanned or photographed. And so it's like reading a book, only it's a little bit slower because you have to go from page to page, but you can learn to navigate it. Now notice here is quite a bit of information about these particular individuals. So this looks like a really good possibility for that particular, those are Christian church records. There are state records, these are state records from the Maryland County State Archives. There are a lot of records in here that are not available through the Family History Library catalog at this point in time. And I imagine they will become so, but it's going to take them a while to catalog all of these records and get them in as need be. So I suggest that you use this for any, this we'll put in another place in the world. We'll put in I'm going to put in Stavanger, Norway, and update my results. Census records for Stavanger, Norway, 1900. Okay. Norwegian research to do. Here's some possibilities. Historical geographies, biographies. So it's not just the United States that these images are for, and I'm sure that there are some for many places around the world. So search images. Moving on to family tree. Before there was family search, there were a number of repositories that we had family history stuff in, like the ancestral file. Many of you probably remember contributing to the ancestral file. There was the International Genealogical Index, the IGI, which kept track of our temple work. And so if you want to find out if your ancestor has a family tree, you can type in their name here. Use a male, He was born in England, United Kingdom. We'll hit find. Well, there he is, and he has a tree. There's the number there. In fact, there's possibly more than one tree. And information about him. And I can go and search this out and look through it, and it tells these are the people found in the shared family tree. This is a brother, I think. So I suggest if you come upon somebody new in your research, a name you didn't know before, put it in the family in the tree and see if in family tree and see if he's already in family search somehow. Genealogies include what I was talking about before, the IGI and the ancestral file. We'll put in James again. My maiden name was Smith, so I don't use that example very much because there's a lot of Smiths. Okay. There he is. He shows up in the IGI with information there, and the ancestral file and the pedigree resource file. These are all early files. And then there are partner trees. My trees also show up in these files. So there's information here you may or may not have. Sometimes people have things you don't have. So I encourage you to look there as you search. The next search I want to go to are books, the catalog. You can search the family history catalog by place, name, subject, many things. If you would put in Audrain County, Missouri, you might come up with the history for that place. I personally like to put it in and see what records are available for particular places. You can search for histories of people too. If you wanted to put in, you could click on surnames here and put in a surname. I'm going to focus on places, but just try it out, see how it works for you. So I'm going to put in Audrain, Missouri. And search. No results. What do you mean? I know it's there. Oh, I don't want surnames. That's my problem. You need to get rid of surnames. Just do place. There it comes up, United States, Audrain County. And I don't want just what's online or just what's at the Family History Center. I want anything either that's available. Then it gives you a list of what's available in the Family History Library catalog has. If I click on history, you notice that it has a number of books that you can look at. Let's go to the history of Audrain County, including its townships, etc. It tells you about the book, and it says to view a digital version of this item, click here. So I can click there and actually read it. And I also note that by scrolling down, it has here a format, I can read it. Now, you will occasionally run across records which have a note that say, these records are restricted and can only be viewed at a family history library, which means you can come here and look at them. And those records have been given, the people who have them or the entities that have them have given permission for them to be viewed on a limited or restricted basis. But generally you can see them here. And so what it is a microfilm of that particular book, but you, like the digital format we looked at previously, you can see it. So those search results can help, but rather than ordering microfilm now for my probate records, I'll just go to the probate record there, and I will pick a time frame in which there might have been a will. It says Missouri probate records are also available online. Click here. If I click that, gives a description of them, and it says tells you how to use the collection, and you can browse through the 6 million images. I'm going to go back to the catalog because I know I want an index at a particular time. I'll click on that. Sometimes it's easier for me to do it this way rather than the other way. It just depends on what you're looking for. And there is the microfilm of the catalog. I can click on that and index to wills. For me, this is the B's, so I know that the D's I'm looking for are going to be down a few pages. And if I go over here, I can go back. I click on the box that had all those squares that go back to this view, and you can navigate through it. Now notice, again, source box. I can add something to the source box from here if I want to come straight back to this or to a particular record. Okay. So the catalog can be helpful in many ways: histories, places, lots of different things, availability. Let's look at books. I love the books. I have found histories because the Family History Department has joined forces with a number of libraries, one of them being the Allen County Public Library, which has a very large collection of books and digitized books that are family history oriented. And you can see the Houston Public Library, the Dallas Public Library, Historical Society of Pennsylvania, Ontario, St. Louis County Public Library. They've joined forces with these libraries. Like I said, Houston has international references in it, Mexico, Canada, many things there. So I'm going to search this library. Now, again, you can search for a particular place and it will bring something up. I'm going to show you how to search for a family in case there is a family history written that one of these libraries happens to have. So I'm going to put in the Schock family. And I found that if I put in family, it doesn't just give me shocking things, it gives me Schock family things. Notice already, there are actually 100,000 results, but it's sorted by relevancy. And these first two are actually my Schock family. And I can click on here and see the full text of the book and view it. And then I can page through, go over here and page through the book page by page. It will have Schock highlighted because that's what I was looking for. So I suggest you look in books. The Family History Library now has one that I acquired a long time ago from Marshall County, Indiana. It was written in 1911, and now it's available online. I don't have to, if I can't find it, I don't have to write back to the Marshall County, Indiana library. So the digital library is very helpful as well. The final area in this one is the Research Wiki. The wiki is like an encyclopedia. So this is a family research encyclopedia. That's what I like to think of it. And for me personally right now, what I use this for is when I am looking at what records are available and how should I search for my ancestors in a particular geographic locality. The Family History Department used to publish research booklets, research guides for the various geographic localities. Now everything is online. You can be as general as England, as specific as Trowbridge, Wiltshire, England, or probate records in England, or whatever you want. And what I like is I'm going to go to Audrain County, Missouri, genealogy. And what this does is it gives me the information. Remember one of the first things I said, learn about where your ancestors were? This tells you about the county, about when it was formed, gives you the county courthouse address, what the different parts of the county has. The county recorder has marriage and land records. It differs from state to state as to how these are located. Notice down here, it tells me they started birth records in 1883, but the statewide registration started in 1910. Marriage records, death records, it tells you when those records started because Audrain County became a county, I believe, in about 1831. Yeah, organized in 1831 from Rawls County. So what does that tell me? That means that records prior to 1831, I'm going to have to look in Rawls County for. Tells boundary changes, populated places, history timeline. It's just all sorts of information. Then it tells about different records and how you can search for them and where you can get them. Some of them are on Family Search, some of them are in other places. Now people contribute these. These aren't put in all by Family Search. An individual will write these up and so they change and they can be added to. Notice maps of Missouri, military records, but not all the information comes from Family Search. Notice over here, and this is really important, Missouri online genealogy records. If I click on that, it takes me to Missouri statewide online genealogy records. And there are links which can be searched for free at a Family History Center or Family History affiliate library. And these are links to records not in Family Search or to Family History Library. And so there's all sorts of things in the wiki. If I wanted to learn how to do Norwegian research, I would go to Norway genealogy. Or if I wanted to do research in Korea, or we were looking about how to do research in Japan for a man. And I went to this link and it gave very good information to help you get guided going and to guide you. So I really highly recommend the wiki. All right, we're going to move off of the search tab and we're going to go look at a particular ancestor, Cynthia Ann Finks. She was my great-grandmother. Her treadle sewing machine is in my front hallway and she was a quilter and I have her original quilt basket. She didn't have a lot of money, but she was extremely creative and a wonderful woman, small woman with a large spirit. Now, we want you to go to a person's page, the detail page, and notice that in the upper right hand corner, on the right side, it says research help. And there are 14, if I click on it, because of what you've put in, there are 14 things that I could possibly review and attach as records for her that maybe would give me more information that Family Search engine has identified. Now, why or how did Family Search engine do this? Well, one thing that helps the search engine tremendously is if you put in the name correctly, if you enter the date of birth like they will like, 6 August 1869, and then you see there it's a standardized place. If you enter a standardized place, that helps the search engine be able to identify records that might help you. Doesn't hit everything, but it's a start. But you want to search more records for this particular person. And so over here under search records, it lists Family Search and partner sites where you can go and research for more about these people. Oh, I was going to show you here too. See, this person changed this in 2010. If I click on that, I can send a message to this individual if I have any questions or want to know their sources or why they did what they did. So you can message people if their name is there by it. These are my brothers, so I know where they are. If I want to see what Family Search has available, this is a lot like searching the historical record, but this is person specific. It looks like the search engine we very first looked at with records, and then I can go to collections. But this is what the search engine thinks would be applicable to this particular ancestor. Go back to her person page. So that's a good place to start, Family Search search engine. Now, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have access to a free, it's not the whole ancestry package, but a good share of it that can be very helpful. And if you are not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and use Family Search, you can have access to those records at a Family History Center. You can come and use this here for free. And it can be very helpful. Now here's my Cynthia Finks. Lots of things we've seen before. Birth and death certificates. Oops, it's telling me I need to sign in because it's not giving me the information here. Just a sec. This is one I remember. I'm not very good with usernames and passwords.
You can also try using the library edition, I think.
Yeah, you could use the library edition, but this is my own personal edition, so we'll go back. To that. I'm going to go to Cynthia. We'll go back to Ancestry. Signed in. Now, you know, after I signed in, if you notice, the information is more complete. But one important thing I've discovered in using the Ancestry search engine, every search engine works a little different. So sometimes they find different things. One search engine might find something somebody else didn't find. I make it a regular thing that I do is to go to edit the search. Because the search engine, when you go to it straight from Family Search, only searches the historical records. If you want to know if there are family trees, stories and publications, or photos and maps, you have to go into edit and click those boxes. And I highly suggest you do, because there are other people who use Ancestry who do not use Family Search, but they put their information and trees in here. Notice here's one family tree, and there are more. I can click on see more like this, and there are more family trees. I click on this family tree. I don't know any Harris Felsinger people, and they have a lot of information and sources. Maybe I already had it. Maybe I didn't. Let's tell you quickly a story of a man my mother and I were helping who lives over in the Payson Veterans Center, convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, had never met a relative on his father's side of the family because his parents divorced when he was very young. We were helping him with his family history. I clicked on find the family tree, and there was a family tree in here entered in by a first cousin of his on his father's side. I contacted her. She was delighted. She referred him to the historian of the family, an 80-plus-year-old woman. That woman sent him 21 pages of family information. He had never before this had contact with a member of his father's side of the family. They weren't members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but they had the spirit of Elijah. And it was a very huge blessing for this man to be able to make those family connections and feel accepted into that family. Now, your story might not be as exciting as that, but nonetheless, I have found many things by clicking on that and finding information I may not have found in other ways. Use Ancestry, use its search engine. There are many good things about it. Again, it searches differently than Family Search, but it comes up with a lot of the same, but sometimes different information, because it has access to some different information than Family Search, although it partners with Family Search on a lot of records. Okay, that's ancestry. Now we're going to go to Find My Past. Find My Past is basically, it has information from the United States in it, shared with it by Family Search and other sources, but it's a really good search engine for the British Isles family history. And that's what I basically use it for. So we can go into Find My Past. And look. Oh, runners are, I'm already a member. I will sign in. And notice, because of their partnership with other genealogy companies and with Family Search, they did find my Cynthia Finks in the US 1870 census. But let me just show you what happens if I put in one of my British ancestors in here. I'll put in James Taunton. He was born long before that. And then we'll put in Wiltshire. And I will say search. And notice there are a number of James Taunton in Wiltshire, England, and I can search through these, and actually some of these are my James Taunton. And I used Find My Past to find a marriage record for James Taunton and his wife, Matilda Cowdall, that I had been searching for about 20 years when Find My Past came out and it was made available for us for searching in the British marriage records. And so Find My Past is an excellent search engine also, and I encourage you to become familiar with it. MyHeritage is another company that has partnered with Family Search. And again, you can go in and search things. They enter things a little differently. Cynthia Ann Dye born Finks rather than Cynthia Ann Finks. Okay. But every search engine can offer you something that you may not find somewhere else. So it's always worth the search. Now you might say, okay, that's great. And then GenNet is another search engine. Philae is French. Google is Google's, like a Google search. You might say, that's great, but how do I get partner access? If you're a member of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and you have a Family Search account, you scroll to the bottom of the page and you click on Solutions Gallery. And then you scroll down the Solutions Gallery and it says Latter-day Saint Access. And you can click on the ones you want to have access to and sign up for them appropriately. And so it includes their Ancestry, American Ancestors, MyHeritage, GenNet, and Find My Past. I don't think the Philae one you need at this point in time. I'm not that familiar with it, but you might look into it. It's French and I don't read French.
But it is indexed in English too.
Oh, it is in English as well. You can see it in English as well. I just haven't used it that much, but I should become more acquainted with it. So that's where you go. Again, to repeat, you scroll down to the bottom of the page of a detail page, a person's detail page. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, go to Solutions Gallery, and then you can go down and find the Latter-day Saint Access. And then there are some other things you can look at there too, I guess, and have access to. Pazilla is fun. Anyway, that's how you get there. Now, you might say to yourself, okay, so that's great, but I do all my family history on my phone. So we will go back and show you, oops, show you how you can access those partner sites on your phone. So you go onto your phone. This is an iPhone version. You see the three little dots right here? I believe on an Android, the dots are vertical rather than horizontal. You can find them. Their dots are lines. And you want to you want to click on those dots. And it will bring up this menu. And you want to click on Search Records. And when you click on Search Records, it will bring up the menu for searching the different partner sites for the individual whose page you are on, just like in Family Search. So it would search records looking for Charles Duncan Dye, whatever I clicked on. I hope that makes sense to you. I don't have an Android, but it's the same principle wherever you, whatever the three dots here, I think they're vertical, but don't quote me on that. At this point, I want to thank you for your attendance and interest. Doing research is fun. And don't say, well, I don't know how. You just have to jump in and try. Hold your nose, go under the water, just try it. You never know where you can be led and what wonderful, wonderful things you can find. It adds to your history to learn this information about your family, because those historical records are not just names and dates. They put those people in a place, in a time. Maybe your ancestor was married before they were of legal age. We found that in one of my husbands, and as a result, her father had to give permission. I don't know if we had found his name otherwise, because it was early record in England. So we know she got married young. My great-grandfather, Charles Duncan Dye, left a will. And when I found it, it explained many things. He had two sons. His wife died. He married again, had another son. She died. In his will, he gave each of his two older sons $1, they having had their share during my lifetime. And the rest went to his son Levius. And so, with nothing for them in Missouri, they up and moved to Eastern Washington and ultimately to Montana. That's why they moved from Missouri to Montana. That explained it to me. There are many other wonderful things you can find out, and you will feel those ancestors with you as you search. I have had that experience, and I can tell you that it can happen. Now, if you have questions for further research help, there's an email address right here. It's UT_Salem@familyhistorymail.org. And if you have a particular question, we hopefully can help you or farm it out to someone who can. We appreciate your attendance and your time, and may the Lord be with you and bless you in your search. Families are forever. Thank you.